Last time we started looking at deconstructing our culture. And what we were looking at is that in recovery, you have to really deconstruct four different things. So you get to adult life and you realize you've fallen into addictions, you've fallen into coping mechanisms that are actually hurting you and those you love and affecting your job, affecting your relationships, and you begin to go, what's wrong with me? So you start by deconstructing your own trauma and see how it led to maladaptations to survive. Then you got to go to deconstructing your family system to see what was healthy in your family's beliefs and dynamics and practices and what was unhealthy. And then you go to deconstructing your faith system, your religion, to see what was healthy and unhealthy, what was indoctrination that really wasn't the truth. And then you got to go to deconstructing your culture. And what we saw is that every culture has adopted certain ways of living as acceptable norms that really aren't healthy. And so you feel a pressure to go along with that, but you begin to realize, no, I have to stand up to that and say, no, that's not healthy. I'm not going to do that. And every culture has some wonderful things within the culture, but they all have some unhealthy things too that have just been there for years and just become accepted as this is the way we are when it's not even healthy. So last time we looked at 5, and I want to do the rest today. Many children grew up in cultures where a child was shamed as a way to discipline them. So you should be ashamed of yourself. What's wrong with you? They will want to make the child not just feel guilty, but to feel terrible about themselves. And so instead of just attacking the child's behavior, they attack the child's character. You did something bad. Oh, you are bad. You should be ashamed. You're a terrible person right now. And what that does is it builds this deepening shame in the child that something's wrong with me. I am not good enough. It just does so much damage to their self-worth. So we've done talks on this, but it really confuses guilt and shame. So guilt is when you do something that violates love. You hurt somebody else. It's an action that is damaging. Shame is about who you are, your core belief. It's not about what you do. And so what they're doing is blending the two. So if you've done something wrong, then you are bad. And that is so dangerous. And so a healthy approach is you did something wrong and you feel guilty because you hurt somebody and they're crying. That's a good thing. So now we can make that right. We can make amends. We can change our behavior. We can get back to being loving again. I'm not going to attack your character. I can correct your behavior. I love you. I value you. And so you make that necessary distinction. But I think many parents fell into this shaming. You should be ashamed of yourself because they thought if they create a whole bunch of negative emotions within the child about themselves, oh, I'm terrible, I'm awful, that would motivate them to want to improve. And what we know is that, yes, it does for a short period of time. But if that continues to be the norm, they don't get validated for the improvement, but the shaming continues, then after a while, they just start to shut down. They develop a deep anger. They might fawn in public and act very polite, but behind the scenes in their heart, there's a secret rebellion. There's a closed heart. There's an anger. And some even go so far as just not even secret rebellion anymore. They just become rebellious. So it eventually backfires, but it has been an accepted way of discipline to children. The next one is using guilt as a way to control people. So it's one of the ultimate forms of how to manipulate people. So if your child tries to set a boundary with you and says, I'm not going to answer the phone because you keep phoning me 4 times a day and I don't have time. I will answer your phone call once a day or once every other day. If they set a boundary like that, then what the mom or dad might do is, after all I've done for you, this is how you're going to treat me. Or, you're breaking my heart. I was always there for you. Why can't you be there for me? I don't ask much of you. And they just start heaping on guilt. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to get the child to go back to the old boundary where the parent could do whatever they wanted. So the parent can be a narcissist. All that matters is their needs. They don't care about the kid's needs. They don't care about meeting the kid's needs. They just want the kid to meet their needs. That is so unhealthy. But it goes farther. In some homes, you do nice stuff for people. So you give them gifts, you cut their lawn for them, you give them rides, you buy them groceries. Why? It's not unconditional. There's strings attached. You do it to gain leverage because now they owe you. You've done stuff for them. Now they feel obligated to give you what you want, to do stuff for you. And so it creates a system where I can gain power over others by grooming them, by giving them gifts, by using loving stuff in order to manipulate, to gain power. It is a very unhealthy system, but sadly, many relationships in our culture are built around that. There's always giving to groom, to gain leverage, and then to be able to manipulate them. And so let me just say this, when you do stuff for others in order to gain leverage or to obligate them, you are doing something that is abusive. You are doing something that is very, very cruel and unhealthy. And so it just, to me, to see that that is not a healthy relationship. That is not a relationship of trust, of unconditional love, of equals, of giving with no strings attached. That is an unhealthy relationship where you are trying to be in a position of power and have them subject to you, and it will never bring about the love and connection that you hope for. There's another common thing within many cultures, and it's forms of emotional invalidation. And so you look at some of your more stoic cultures where you just don't express a lot of emotions. And so if a child expresses intense emotions quite intensely, you're too sensitive. Big boys don't cry. Stop crying. Just suck it up. There's nothing for you to be upset about. If you don't have anything like the life of a kid suffering in Africa, on and on, to invalidate the child's emotions, to minimize them, to deny them. And so the child is constantly feeling, as soon as I express emotions, I get dismissed instead of acknowledged. Nobody's trying to understand me. Nobody is wanting me to be authentic. They just want to keep me in a box of emotions that they are comfortable with. So it's all about their comfort. And so the child is learning that certain emotions are wrong, that emotions are inconvenient, that they need to learn to suppress, and that if they have them, they should feel shame. And so I think it's important to realize that many cultures have categorized emotions in ways that there are certain emotions that are acceptable and good. The others are negative and bad. So you can express the acceptable good ones, but you need to repress the negative and bad ones. What they're basically doing is to say, you have to learn to be less than human. You have to suppress parts of your humanity and only express parts that we deem acceptable. And so the way to make everybody happy is to never show negative emotions. That is a complex trauma family. That is an unhealthy thing. A child needs to learn that all emotions are valuable. They all tell you something. They're all trying to teach you and protect you and guide you. We need help to learn to regulate them. And we don't learn to regulate them by just suppressing them. We learn to regulate them by having adults in our life who are mature enough to be co-regulators for us and help us learn to process them and to express them appropriately. Such an important truth. The next one is the tendency within many cultures to minimize or deny harm. And so your dad blows up and throws stuff and hits somebody, and then your mom says, oh, that's just how your father is. Or it wasn't that bad. Or you're remembering it wrong. It didn't really happen like that. And so what you're basically getting there is we keep secrets about abuse. We keep secrets about harm. We change the story. We rewrite the narrative to protect the family image. And so there's a gaslighting that's happening. So now children begin to doubt their own perception. Maybe I didn't see it right. Maybe I didn't remember it correctly. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that behavior. Maybe that's normal. And then they're learning that you can just blame problems on somebody else. You never have to take ownership for your own behavior. That does so much damage. What we have to understand is you cannot repair damage in yourself, in relationships, unless you see it accurately. If you minimize the harm, if you deny the harm, if you try to rationalize or justify the harm, you cannot find healing. You have to see it accurately. And that means you have to own your part. They have to own their part fully. Otherwise, it can never be properly repaired. And that's why I think many parents fall into this minimizing harm stuff, because they're afraid that if they own their part, then that's going to expose them as being a terrible person. That's going to expose their shame. That's going to force them to have to grow up. That's going to force them to have to look at other areas of their life. And who knows where that will end. They could be opening a Pandora's box of, boy, I'm a lot sicker than I thought I was. And so let's just keep denying. Let's just keep blaming. Let's just keep minimizing. But the damage goes on and on. Another thing that happens with many families and cultures is loyalty above truth. And so family comes first, no matter what. Blood is thicker than water. Only your family has your back. And so what is happening with that instilled deep sense of loyalty, patriotism, is now you have to tolerate the abuse that's happening. You have to tolerate the harmful behaviors that are happening. You have to be loyal to your family, even though they're manipulating you, even though they're hurting you, even though they are abusing you. You got to be loyal because families stay together. So you can't look honestly at your family. You can't speak the truth. You got to be silent about all of the bad stuff's happening, because to speak the truth would be disloyal. And that has been built into so many cultures and so many family systems. And it has kept people protecting secrets for the sake of loyalty to the family. Because if the secrets ever got out, it could destroy the family. They could be exposed for who they really are. Their image would be shattered. And so now if a child goes to set a boundary, if a child goes to speak up about a problem, they immediately get shushed. They immediately get told they're causing problems. You better get back to conforming if you want to be considered a good kid. And so this is why I say to so many of our clients that one of the most difficult but important things to do is to set different boundaries with your family than they've set for years. So your family's done things this way for years. This has been their boundary about certain things for years. and you come along and you say, no, that's not healthy. I'm not going to continue to live that way because that's screwing me up. You're going to get so much opposition. Your hope is if I set a boundary and say, this is what healthy is, people say, oh, good, thank you. We're all going to adjust. No, they are going to attack because you're exposing a sickness in this family. And if that gets out, the shame that would be exposed is too much for them to consider. And so they're going to say, hey, you're trying to create problems in this family. When you didn't speak up, this family got along great. You think you're better than us. You're a narcissist. All you care about is what you want. Or you're disobeying God because you're not obeying your parents. They're going to come up with all kinds of twisted arguments to try to put you back in your place. That's how powerful this whole thing is about minimizing harm by not speaking up about the wrongs that those in authority are doing. The final one, conditional love. Most cultures say that they love unconditionally. Most families say that they love unconditionally. Most churches say that they love unconditionally. But when you get inside of them, you begin to realize, no, there's actually conditional love. They love you as long as you conform and do what you're told. So whether they show love to you is tied to your obedience, your performance, your achievements. When you obey, when you conform, when you do well and make great achievements and are successful, you get heaped with love. You get heaped with validation. It looks like you're so accepted. But the minute you don't do what they want, the minute you challenge what they're doing and don't meet their expectations and don't take the job that they designed for you and don't fulfill the role that they think you should fill, all of a sudden they withdraw their love from you. You only get love and affection when you conform to what they want. Otherwise, you get withdrawal from love, and that's punishment. And so that on the surface seems like a great way to motivate children because they want your affection. They want your validation. So they will conform. They will fawn. They will begin to chronically people please. But it leads to that child becoming an adult that now feels they must earn love, that there's a ticket that must be paid for in order to enter a relationship, and that is they have to fawn. They have to give up their needs and conform to your wishes. So what is happening with conditional love is a child does something that displeases the parents. So the parents basically say, I will break connection with that child. I will withdraw love. I will give them the silent treatment. I will break connection. So now the child wants to reconnect and I won't allow it. That is a cruel form of punishment. That's not healthy discipline. If a child does something that you're not pleased with, it could be that you need to change your belief system. Or if they've done something that violates love, then you connect with them. You stay connected with them. You say there's going to be a consequence if you continue with this. We need to talk about this. You help the child understand why that's a harmful behavior and hopefully bring the child to a point where they go, I'm sorry, I want to change. But you stay connected. That's unconditional love. You might be enforcing consequences that the child goes, oh, you're a mean parent. But no, you're staying connected with the child. You're working through it. Whereas conditional love is, I'm connected as long as you do what I want. As soon as you challenge it, I'll never look at me. It's got to be your fault. And I'm going to break connection until you come back to conforming. What happens to a child when parents do that is initially they try to reestablish connection. But if it continues and continues, they get to a point where I'll just harden my heart and I'll look for connection elsewhere because I can't get consistent connection with my parents. It's only on their terms and it's not right. It's unfair. So I will find connection elsewhere. There's probably a whole bunch of others things within our culture today. You can give it some thought that aren't healthy, that are normalized, but are actually toxic. I just hope this gets you thinking and starts to help you deconstruct your society. Not to say it's terrible, not to say I hate it, but to be able to go, I love all of this parts of my society, but this, I need to make some changes so that I don't repeat that to my children and to the next generations. So thanks again for being here. If it was helpful, please like, subscribe, share, make a comment. We really appreciate it.